Hey YouTube, welcome back to the channel. So I've been asked what got me into 3D printing? What interested me in it? Well, there's actually a reason, and I'm going to share that with you tonight. What I'm going to do is I'm going to show you another video within this video of a trip that I took back in March of 2025 to Salem, Massachusetts. Now, I didn't intend to do anything with this video. I didn't intend to do any editing on it, to upload it anywhere. It basically just sat on my phone, and that's where it's been for over a year. But when I got back in April of 2025, I bought my first 3D printer. And the reason I did is because I went to Salem. So Salem is the reason I got into 3D printing. And I will explain to you what that is at the very end of the video that I'm going to show you. I'll explain to you how they're related and what one has to do with the other. It actually does tie in. So stick around, watch this other video, and we will talk about it at the end. Thanks for watching. By the way, before we get into the video of Salem, I just want to say that this video is never meant to be a professionally shot video. It's the first video I ever actually did. I usually just took pictures and totally forgot about video. But for some reason, I was filming the historical sites in this video. So I did the best I could with the video, the footage that I had, and the audio that I had. And I think it turned out okay, but just please be kind in the comments, because it was my very first time of ever filming anything. So let's get into it. So this morning, I'm out early. It's about 8 o'clock Boston time. Gonna grab some breakfast and gonna come to the old reliable Red Sandwich Shop. They do have pretty good breakfast here. So I'm gonna go in and eat real quick, and I'll let you guys know how it was when I'm done. Thanks. This house is by the Charter Street Cemetery. When me and Kyla were here last year, they were redoing it. Looks like they got the front of it done, as well as the doorway replaced. I wonder if that's the original doorway, or if it's a new one. I know where the original doorway is. I want to go check. Charter Street Cemetery. The second oldest cemetery in New England, and I'm going to see if I can actually get into the cemetery. I don't know why people have it locked, but for some reason they do have this one locked. Coming up here on the right is going to be the Charter Street house. I'm not too sure of the actual name of it, but I think it was built around 1645 maybe. This one right here. I just love this New England architecture. These old houses. It really is amazing what they could do. Sorry for the sun, but I am out walking early morning. So let's see. Here's the other side of that house. And yes, it's supposed to be haunted. But here's your Salem Witch Trials Memorial. Now, they, or some people think, that this is actually the graves of these accused, and it's not. What it is just a memorial to each one of them. And there were 19 who were hung, and one, Giles Corey, he was pressed to death by stones because he would not enter a plea of guilty or not guilty. But I've heard that Giles Corey wasn't a very nice man in life. He actually killed one of his own servants. That's Giles' wife right there. And then Giles is right here. Again, these are just memorials. And nobody knows where the real witches are buried. Or actually, sorry, not witches, but the accused, except for George Jacobs. And they kind of have an idea where Rebecca Nurse is buried. Now, John Proctor and a couple of other ones. Here's George Jacobs Memorial. So John Proctor, George Burroughs, and this lady right here, Rebecca Nurse, with the exception of Bridget Bishop, are probably some of the most famous innocent accused victims. Outside of this young lady right here, Bridget Bishop. She was the very first one ever hung during the Salem Witch Trials. So it does not look like I'm going to be able to get into the cemetery. That's kind of strange. I thought cemeteries were open. But there was one thing I was wanting to show you inside the cemetery. I can see the grave that I want to see from here. I just don't know if I'm going to be able to point it out to you. It's kind of strange. Okay, let me try this here. So if you see that square grave right there, it's actually an old headstone in the shape of like this small one right there, but it's encased in marble. And what that is actually the grave of John Hawthorne, who was actually a judge during the Salem Witch Trial. And I do believe inside this cemetery is also buried a pilgrim from the Mayflower. So I'm going to walk around and see what else there is to see. And I will get back with you as soon as I find a place open, because it's pretty early. Thanks. So I'm really not sure where I'm at. I was just walking around and I came across this memorial, and I don't know if you can see it very well, but I'll go ahead and read it to you. It says that this land was once owned by Richard Moore, the only Mayflower passenger to move from Plymouth to Salem. And that's just right here at a very, very busy intersection. Again, I don't know if this house has anything to do with it, but this was the land. I was just walking by and I found this alleyway a little cool. That house back there in the back, the tan colored one, Still has Halloween decorations up. I don't know if you can see them, but there's still skeletons hanging on the walls, spider webs, and we're in the middle of March right now. But this blue house, they usually go all out for Halloween. It's a big draw. A lot of people come by and see it. I just kind of thought that was interesting. Yeah, this is a Nathaniel Hawthorne statue, apparently. And you can see the Hawthorne Hotel right in the back. Pretty nice hotel. Really comfortable. I think I'm gonna bite the bullet and go into the Salem Witch Museum. I've heard some bad things about it, but when in Salem, you know, you kind of have to. I think it's $17.50 per person, so it's kind of expensive, but I will let you guys know how it is and what I think about it, if it's worth it or not. And just a little side note, you see this statue here in the front? That's Roger Conant. He is the founder of Salem, I think way back in 1626. I'm going to walk by it. I'll make sure. Yeah, I'm here at the statue of Roger Conant. And yeah, he was actually the first settler of Salem in 1626. Okay, so I just left the Salem Witch Museum, and to tell you the truth, it really wasn't too bad. It's about an hour long, and it's $17.50. You do get a veteran's discount if you're a veteran, but it's actually pretty good for the price and for the time that you spend in there. And they got a really, really nice gift shop. Now I'm going to walk around this immediate area. Look at some of these old houses. The first one I want to come to is this one right here. Looks kind of brownish with orange trim. That's the Daniel Bray house. And it's been around since 1766. I don't really know a lot of what it was for, but we'll go over here to the side of it. The back section you see there with the slanted roof, that's a later addition that was added on when inside toilets became popular. And when the kitchen was added, that's what that section was added for. The original house was just this right here. This little building that you see, it's called a summer house. And this was usually on the lawns of very large estates. And they would just go in here and have like tea and coffee and spend some Sunday afternoons. The next building I'm going to look at is this one right here. This is called the John Ward House. And it was built in 1684, so it was around during the Salem Witch Trials, but it's not related in any way to the Salem Witch Trials. The next building I'm going to look at is this little red building here. And this is the first Quaker meeting house in Salem. See if I can see them in the windows. Oh yeah. I don't know if you can see any of that, but there's like some benches and a pulpit kind of thing. That's about it. Now remember earlier when I told you about the house on Charter Street by the Charter Street Cemetery that they were remodeling, and about the doorway? Well, apparently that doorway that they had up is a recreated doorway, because right there's the original doorway. The Grimshaw House. That's what that one is called. It's called the Grimshaw House. But this is the actual door and frame that was on the Grimshaw House. I'm out here in front of Rockefeller's. I think I'm going to go in and maybe look for something to eat, or maybe just have a mystery shot if they have one. I'll let you know what I end up doing here in just a minute. So I decided against Rockefeller's. Just wasn't too hungry. Just gonna walk over here to the park. I kind of missed it, but so when you come to Salem, of course, to see the witch house. Now this house belonged to Judge Jonathan Corwin, and yes, it's true that it is the only remaining home still standing with direct ties from the Salem Witch Trials, but it is not the only home still standing from that time period. There are actually around 6 or 7 in Salem itself. Now, witch related, Danvers has the Rebecca Nurse Homestead, which that still stands and you can visit and tour through. And then Peabody has the John Proctor House, which is privately owned and it is not open for tours. I just wanted to mention that because a lot of people get that wrong. But no witches were tried here. No witches ever even entered here. This church just down the road from the Salem Witch House is the first church in Salem. Now, of course, the building is much later than the Salem Witch Trials, but this is the land that the first church stood on. And there's actually a sign up here that tells you about it. Right here. 1629 to 1929, the first church in Salem. Okay, so here's another building that everybody comes to when they're in Salem. This is the Hocus Pocus Mansion, is what they call it. It's where Allison lived in the film Hocus Pocus. There is a big garden in the back. I was going to walk back there, but somebody's actually kind of working and raking things up, so I'm not going to bother with it. So this place here, the Witch Dungeon Museum, is someplace I really wanted to go into. It's supposed to be a really good museum, but unfortunately they're still closed for the season, and I don't think they open up till April 1st or so. So I'll have to come back some other time later in the year and actually go to this one. So I want to take a minute and tell you about this place right up here on the right. It's called Turner Seafood. It's a little restaurant. Now, where this building sits is the actual location of an apple orchard that was owned by Bridget Bishop. And well, she was the first one hung during the witch trials. A lot of people believe that the reason she was accused of being a witch because owning the apple orchard, she was actually rather well off, and she married a man of ill repute. So having money and land, it is rumored that the government wanted it, basically. The Puritan people in charge wanted the land. So she was accused of witchcraft and she was hung. Now they do say that it is haunted because they say at night when they're closing up, they can smell apples, like apple cider or baked apple pie, that sort of thing. Don't know anything about it, but I do know it was featured on an episode of Ghost Hunters, and of course they said that it was. Okay, so this next place that I'm going to, you can see it right in front of me. This big old modern building with a bunch of businesses and office space in it. On this land stood the actual jail where they held all of the accused witches. Of course, it wasn't that big or anything, but this land was owned by the town of Salem for the jail, and this is what stands here now. I'll show you when I get up here. But if you see, you can see this little plaque on the side of the building. I'll walk up to it and it says the Old Witch Jail. So this is the spot where they actually held the accused witches until they were either released or hung. So I don't know anything about this church here. I just think it's pretty cool because right here in the very front, right off the sidewalk, you have all these old graves. These old headstones. It's kind of weird that they're so close together. It says it's St. Peter's Episcopal Church, but there's also a plaque that's listed on the National Register of Historic Places. I'm not sure why, but here's the other side of the entryway. There's more graves there. So I was actually just talking to a local about the church, and it appears that there's evidence that all those headstones are just headstones. There's actually no graves there. The graves are actually right here in the back. They moved the headstones to create space to build an addition, but they left the graves there and just moved the headstones out front. If they did, that's a very poltergeist thing to do, if you get my meaning.
So I'm walking down to Arch Street Cemetery, and I just wanted to take a quick second and point out these houses. There are several houses like this in Salem where you have 3 stories. But if you look close enough, you'll see that the first story and the second story have the same size windows. But the third stories, their windows are much shorter. And the reason for that is those third stories were used for children and servants. So they didn't have to be as tall is what they thought. I just wanted to point that out. Okay, I made it to Howard Street Cemetery, and this is the land that they believe Giles Corey was pressed to death on, because that building right there with the 3 chimneys on it was the location of the sheriff's office. Not the jail, but the office. So their theory is they just bought him out the back door, put him somewhere on this property, and crushed him. It was not a cemetery back then, it was just an open field. And they believe that he was crushed right up here where you see these 4 posts. Right there. That one. There's 4 posts standing straight up. They believe that was the location. Now, that's probably not true, but that's what they say. Another interesting fact is that when Giles Corey was being pressed, he put a curse on the sheriff of Salem, and Salem town for that matter, but basically the office of sheriff. And George Corwin, who was sheriff at the time, he died like 3 years after the Salem Witch Trials, and every single sheriff from that time to like the 1990s either died or had to resign from office for some kind of blood or heart issue. A lot of them said it felt like there was a large pressure on their chest, which is exactly what Giles Corey would have felt with all those stones pressing on him. So that's just one of the legends, and they say this graveyard is haunted by his ghosts, but I guess you never know. One other thing I wanted to point out is a lot of these graves are really old. You can see that one there. A lot of them you can't even read anymore. But the interesting thing that I wanted to point out is something that we pretty much use every day in our life is going to be this over here. Let me just pick one out in general. Okay, let's go with this one. This one says, in memory of Mr. Burpee Ames. You can see this is his headstone. And then if you look a little bit over this way, I know you can't see it because of the sun, but you'll see a very small headstone. That's actually his too. It's a footstone or a footboard. So you'll have the headboard and the footboard. And it tells you that he is laid right there. They didn't have to guess which way the bodies went. And there's a lot of these graves up here that are like that. Here's another one. See who this is. This is memory of Mr. John Poland. There's his headboard. Right there is his footboard. I know you can't see it because the sun is horrible. But yeah, that's everything.
Okay, so that's going to be the video. And some of you are probably thinking, what the heck does that have to do with 3D printing? Well, let me explain to you. So when I go on vacation someplace, I like to collect miniatures of historical places like houses and buildings that are tied to that area. Like if you go to Britain and you go visit a castle, you can go to the shop, the gift shop, and buy a miniature castle. I've got plenty of those. But I found out when I went to Salem and I was looking for miniatures of some of their historical homes and buildings, I couldn't find any. If they did have some, they were very well hidden because I didn't see anything. I even asked around at some of the gift shops, if they knew of where I could get these, and they had no idea as well. So when I got back, I bought my first 3D printer. I got back in April. And the reason I bought my first 3D printer was because I couldn't find what I wanted to buy. I couldn't find them in person at a gift shop, and I couldn't find them online. So I figured I would just print them myself. So I bought the 3D printer, learned how to use Tinkercad, and I started designing them myself. And I have to say, they turned out okay. They weren't the best, but it gave me a sense of accomplishment that I knew I could later, after I learned more, I could accomplish it. So that's the reason. And if you like this type of content where I explain things to you or give you a tutorial, or if you would rather see me do more videos of me showing the actual printing of the parts and then me putting the parts together, leave a message in the comments below, and I'll definitely make some new videos of that. But until then, please like and subscribe, and I will see you on the next video. Thanks.